Earlier this year, I challenged myself to get on the phone with over 150 C-suite leaders and senior leaders who will shortly be at that level to ask them a simple question. What's holding them back? What's stopping them from having a vibrant, fulfilling role that allows them to grow and contribute? Or if not that, what's stopping them from actually getting these types of roles, getting the access to those, and being able to close in them in the first place? And I started hearing some patterns. I started hearing 5 major lies that seem to be so deeply ingrained in people. And the reason I'm putting this video together, I want to be very, very honest and blunt with you because I feel like there's so much bullshit out there when it comes to people like trying to sell you and hawk you services instead of being real with you, okay? So let me be real with you. Not everyone is going to make it to a better outcome in their careers. Not everyone is going to be able to make it to something more than they have. For some people, they're going to be stuck in a downward spiral that they cannot get out of because they themselves are the #1 contributor to it. Simply put, I want you to really have a moment of reflection here. I'm going to share these big 5 lies. I'm going to share with you what the secret payoff of this is. And I want you to really be honest with yourself because, look, we all have hard moments. We all have moments where we struggle. Maybe you've had a couple of hard years. Maybe you're looking to bounce back. Maybe you know you have that leader who's dying to come out and you just can't access it. Fine. We can always short-term indulge in this kind of victim mentality and thinking. But if you deeply believe this to the point where it's starting to become essential to your identity, there's no way anyone can reach you or anyone can save you. So it's better that you know and that you be brave about ripping this nonsense out. Let's dive in. Lie number 1, rising up is a matter of politics, not skill. Okay, so what's the huge payoff here? Simple, you get to stop trying, right? You get to blame the crooked game, right? You get to take yourself out without ever really putting yourself out there, right? And best of all, that cowardice is actually smart, right? It's being intelligent because why would you ever overextend yourself, right? For a crooked game that you can't win. Here's the truth. It's not about politics, okay? It's about need. Effective leaders rise up when they are able to crystallize themselves as a solution to a problem they are unable to solve in a way that only you can. And if you haven't figured that out, if you haven't done the work, if you can't powerfully see that in 5 seconds in your brand or feel that in 5 seconds of you walking into a room with your peers and beyond, then there's a huge problem. That's your big red flag. That's the big vulnerability point that's there, right? And until you address that, politics will always be a BS cop-out, okay? Skills will always be a BS cop-out because, listen, if you don't think it's politics, if you're being honest with yourself, there's another little voice in you that's saying you'll never be skilled enough, right? You'll never, ever, ever, ever be skilled enough, and that will kill you, okay? So I want you to really rip this lie right out, okay? Success and rising up as a leader is about need. It's not about politics, and it is not about skill. Lie number 2, ageism kills my chances before I even open my mouth. So what's the payoff of that, right? You get to mask cynicism as wisdom. Right? You get to go at half speed, and instead of looking at that as a disappointment, well, you're a survivor. You get to uphold scarcity thinking as a virtue instead of a liability. Right? That's the payoff there. Now, let's be real and let's actually talk about this, right? Does ageism exist? Of course. Are there companies that will judge you either in a hiring process or even after you start a role, right? In terms of your ability to rise in that role unfairly because of your age. Yes, of course, it does. But here's the thing. Bottom line, if you're an older professional, you have really a binary choice here, okay? One is you own who you are. Okay? You own the fact that you're an elder of the tribe. You own the unique experience, but also the process that only you have. You own the fact that the mistakes, quote unquote, the challenges you've had give you a perspective, a power, a strength, a resilience that no one else can. And you run with that as a one-of-one property, a one-of-one asset. Or you spend the rest of your career losing at a young man's game. Because when you refuse to do that, what you're essentially doing is being like every lazy Tom, Dick, and Harry out there who are 20, 30 years younger, who think that their degree, their credentials, their skills are going to allow them to waltz in. They're not doing the work. They're not exposing themselves to the hard questions of that. Because yes, of course, owning that also means looking at and getting help sometimes and owning the vulnerabilities, the mistakes you've made, the regrets. But suppressing all of this, ignoring it, and then blaming it on ageism, that's not an excuse that you want to live up to, okay? That's not an example that you want to set for your kids and your family. Lie number 3, I'll just start a business and that'll solve all of my problems. So what's the payoff in that? Oh, what a gorgeous dream, right? We get to better deal with the misery around us every day, like the fact that we're not getting paid our worth, the fact that we're getting no support from our people, right? All of that doesn't matter because listen, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, when we have that perfect business plan, when we have that perfect partner, when we have that momentum, none of which exists, right now, then everything's going to solve, right? I can't really, contribute to my grandkids, right? Or contribute to even my children's college fund the way that I would want. But you know what? 5 years from now, we're going to be sitting on top of a multi-billion-dollar business and it's not going to matter. Guys, I have literally heard this. I have heard this from people who are down sometimes the last 5 years of work, who have not seen income, who are living off of their savings. This is delusion talk, okay? This is delusion talk. So I want you to really, really understand. And if you want to get pissed at me, I would rather you get pissed and you actually wake up from the matrix than squander what time you have on honestly BS nonsense. You've never launched a business before. You have never tested your idea. You've not gotten client number 1, nor have you any idea how to do that. To launch a business is going to require years of time and trial and error, even under the best of circumstances, and you don't have that time. Right? You've never done that. You don't know what to do. You are basically in the same zone of a pipe dream as anybody else out there. And the longer you look at that, the longer a real opportunity to have an impact goes away. I'm not saying don't do that, but let's just be very real. How many successful businesses do you think are started by people who are not going from success to success, not going from, hey, you know what? This leadership journey is completely stalled. I'm going to end this on a win and I'm going to move forward. How many of them do you think actually succeed when the person at its heart feels like they're a failure, knows that they have failed in corporate America, and they're going to take their failing mentality into the business world to do what? To do what? Wake up, okay? If you want to do that, go all in, commit right now, leave that job, jump in, make the decisions you need to make to go all in. But if you're not doing that, then you are engaging in cope, and that is never, ever, ever going to help you. Lie number 4, one more certification will fix everything. Boy, I've indulged in this personally for years. And here's what the payoff is. Boy, what a good student you are. What a good student you are, right? Even though you're, 8 months into a role and you fail to prove yourself as an executive, you know what? Take that random online course. Even though, your family needs money now, or you need to be able to actually really pivot to realize those larger scale impact things, you need to do that now, right? You know what? Forget it. Let's take this course. Let's take this 3-module course that takes us out. It gives you a dopamine hit, right? Of thinking that you're doing something virtuous and moving forward. Let's be very real. It is actually creative avoidance, right? It is creative avoidance. It is allowing you to feel virtuous, solving a problem that you are more comfortable solving, rather than looking at the ones that you have zero presence in. So let me be very, very clear with you, okay? Credentials are not impact. Right? Training is not talking to the right people and figuring out what's going on and figuring out how to align to that, right? If you're not doing those things, if you're not truly getting in the ring, right? And that means the contact sport of relationships, right? Build out. If you're in a role right now, the hard work of reframing the signaling that's going on, reframing your tactical leadership, right? If you're not doing that, and instead you're reading a freaking book about leadership, but while dozing off at night, no judgment, I've done that, but that's nothing, right? That is total avoidance. That is complete avoidance. So repeat after me. If it doesn't terrify you, if it's not something you have zero presence in, it's probably not the thing that you need to actually see a result in your life. And it's better to cut the BS out, identify that, and move it forward. Line number 5, my past mistake will always define me. What's the payoff of that? Weirdly, control, right? You get to hold on to this horrible red flag. You get to basically suffocate so much of what is beautiful about yourself by holding on to this. So you feel protected. You feel safe in a way that that boss, that event never like stole that safety from you. But really, if you think about it, you become actually your own jailer, right? That thing happened and I'm willing to bet any money that it was unfair. I'm willing to bet any money that you didn't deserve it, that you didn't have it coming to you. Bad crap happens in corporate America. And there's not always a reason or a rhyme for it. But for you to look at that and then say, oh, look, my whole career is now going to be spent silently and secretly shadowboxing against this, means that you actually believe it. Means the worst assertions, you now uphold it. Because what you're saying is your shame and your silence is paramount. It's more important than your family, your loved ones, your dream, this one divine life that you have. Protecting this is the most thing. And so really challenge that, how many times over the course of a day, over the course of a week, right? When you think about your life, where you want to go, how many times are you repeating this kind of a narrative, right? I'll never get ahead. I squandered it. I should have asked for equity 5 years ago. Now it's too late. I'm, brown skinned. I'm never going to have, a leg up. I'm a woman, right? Past a certain age here, I'm not gonna get out. Whatever it is, whatever the mistake is, I want to assure you here, okay? Every leader has them. Every single leader out there who has any journey worth something, who isn't just like a 9-to-5er, but really put themselves out there to do something that matters, they have them. They have red flags, they have setbacks, they have failures, quote unquote. They have it all. But the question is, right? Do you look at that naively like an amateur and say, oh, that's a reason why I don't belong here? Or do you actually look at it exactly the opposite? That your pain, your problems, in you overcoming it, in you not using shame and silence, but ownership to move forward with it, to see here's the win, here's the wisdom, that's the most inspiring thing you can be as a leader. And by the way, there's real power in that. Right? Over and over again, we'll see senior level leaders, right, work at it super successfully in companies that skew much younger because they're able to own their power. They're able to own their value. And they're literally able to say, look, don't do this. That's super boneheaded. We did that 15 years ago. Here's what happened. Challenge, action, result. It freaking sucked. That's power, right? If you don't do that, literally you're waiting for the next time a situation like that is going to come so you can go further into your shell. And it's a self-defeating pattern of misery that you must break. There are no mistakes, okay? There are lessons, there are insights, and there's fodder for your power, for your executive presence, for your executive brand. Now, I want to, bring this all together if I can. So, we've been looking at these big lies. We've been looking at these big myths. I hope that some of these have surprised you. I hope that if you recognize yourself in some of this, that's causing an emotional reaction right now, okay? We are so good, and executives are so gosh darn good at denying and BS and absorbing lies about themselves rather than actually putting themselves out there. So while you're here in this mode, let me just help you with one other action or step forward potentially, okay? There's two ways here, if you're seeing yourself in this, two ways that you can either address this, okay? One is that you're currently installed in a leadership role right now, and you're grappling with signaling as an enterprise partner. You're grappling with tactical leadership. You're grappling with things like imposter syndrome, right? And it's affecting you at your work right now. You need to figure out a way to not just identify some of this, but tactically figure out what are some countermeasures I can deploy, right? If that's you, I would recommend using the link I've got below this video here to book a leadership presence session with me, okay? That's where we can go deeper. I can help you more deeply audit exactly what's happening here. And help you figure out a plan of attack, something that'll actually stop the bullshit, stop the lying, stop the wasted years, and stop the pain inside in favor of real progress right here and right now. Okay, it'll maximize your success there, or at least give you, a leg up. If though you're someone where you're look, I got to get out of this role. I'm stuck in between roles. I've spent the last 5 years accepting lower and lower offers, and listen, I could affect my leadership presence all you want. This is a dead story here. I gotta get out and I gotta invest my energy, my time, my focus on generating momentum, generating offers. If that's where you are, that's a very different scenario, okay? And so I've included a different link if you need help with that, okay? And especially if you're there, time is of the essence. So if you need this help, these are free sessions I'm setting up for people who understand or are familiar with my work. The goal is to help you first and foremost. So if you need that, don't hesitate. Above all, please, right? Don't do what like 90% of you are going to do, which is you're going to hear the truth here. You're going to click off this video and you're going to go right back to being totally dominated by that fear and that shame. If that's you, it's better that you just get out of the game. Better that you just hang it and call it quits, because right now, right here, the number one thing I can tell you, the external that you can't control, is that those who are enthralled to fear will become unbelievably victimized. And those who will rise are those who refuse to look at it that way and can convincingly and powerfully ride their own narrative forward as a leader.